I'll be speaking about HLH and summarizing the cases discussed so far. HLH is hemophagocytic lymphohistiocytosis. By definition, it is a life-threatening inflammatory condition where there is hyperactivation of macrophages and increased cytokine production with multi-system manifestations. Pathogenesis of HLH is we have macrophages, which are antigen presenting cells. They get activated in the presence of an antigen. The function of these macrophages is to present the antigen to T cells. And once this function is over, they are lysed by the CD8 cytotoxic T cells. So even natural killer cells also does the same function of killing the activated macrophages. What happens in HLH is we have macrophages which are activated, but there is a dysfunction in T cells and NK cells, which result in hypercytokinemia. In the picture of this activated macrophages, these cells keep on engulfing the cell tissues like RBCs and other components, which result in hemophagocytosis. Types of HLH, we have primary HLH, secondary HLH, and macrophage activation syndrome. Primary HLH, there will be a underlying genetic disorder, and in secondary HLH, there will be any other secondary causes like a malignancy or an infection or any rheumatological disease. So when the background picture is a rheumatological disease, then it is known as macrophage or activation syndrome. So this occurs primarily in patients with systemic juvenile immunoarthritis or adult onset Still's disease or any other rheumatological diseases. Primary HLH. The onset of primary HLH may be in the infancy and it means survival once the HLH sets in maybe up to 2 months. And it can even occur in any age up to 70 years. The pathogenesis in a primary HLH, like how we have seen a previous case where there was a disease diagnosed as primary HLH, one thing we have to do is a genetic pathology should be proved. What happens in primary HLH is there can be a loss of certain genes, function of genes, or gain of function of certain genes like perforin, MUNC13-4, syntaxin N11. The causes of secondary HLH are infections, rheumatological diseases, or malignancies. Infections like viral infection of Epstein-Barr virus, cytomegalovirus, hepatitis, dengue, or bacterial infections like staphylococcus, streptococcus, and fungal infection like histoplasma, tuberculosis, and parasite infection. Rheumatological diseases like SLE, adult onset Still disease, polyarticular juvenile immunoarthritis, or any mixed connective tissue diseases. Even malignancies like T cell leukemia, Hodgkin's and non-Hodgkin diseases, or solid tumors like hepatocellular or lung cancers can manifest as HLH. How do these patient present to our hospital will be like febrile illness with a multi-involvement or multi-organ involvement. They may mimic a common infection or may be like a fever of unknown origin, hepatitis, or encephalitis. The most common picture is a patient becoming acutely and significantly unwell, and they will be having sudden occurrence of non-remitting high-grade fever. On examinations, we may find patient having hepatomegaly or splenomegaly or lymphadenopathy with rashes all over the body. So the multi-system manifestation may present as encephalopathy, lethargy, irritability, headache, seizures, lung manifestation like ARDS, pulmonary infiltrate, severe diarrhea, DIC, and once the renal dysfunction settles, then the mortality risk is very high. Laboratory features, hematological manifestation can be shown as a single line cytopenia where there may be a cytopenia showing leukocytopenia, thrombocytopenia, or erythrocytopenia. Once the multi-lineage is involved, they may present as a pancytopenia. But the earliest manifestation to occur may be thrombocytopenia. So this is due to the increased destruction by phagocytosis, like we see in the pathogenesis, that there is a activated macrophage which keep on engulfing the cell tissues, resulting in the destruction. And this is not due to the bone marrow suppression. So once we do the bone marrow, they will show an increased cellularity. The other pictures can be a raised ferritin levels This is due to the excessive erythrophagocytosis, and liver enzymes like AST and LDH will be raised. So a patient in the hospital who is acutely febrile with an elevated serum ferritin and an elevated liver enzyme is highly specific and sensitive to diagnose as HLH. The other markers like of coagulopathy, there will be an elevated D-dimers or hypofibrinogenemia, elevated markers of inflammation like CRP and interleukin 2 receptor alpha. A paradoxical ESR, as it is a picture of an inflammatory disease, we expect ESR to go up. But in this case, we see a ESR which is on a lower side. So a patient having a lower or a falling ESR with a rising CRP is again sensitive to HLH. Once we do a bone marrow, we can see a picture of hemophagocytosis. Even though hemophagocytosis confirm diagnosis of HLH, it is not a diagnostic because in the early stages of hemophagocytosis, it will be difficult to see this picture. So we may have to do a serial bone marrow biopsy to demonstrate the hemophagocytosis in the negative cases. Diagnostic criteria. According to the HLH 2004 protocol, they should satisfy either the molecular diagnosis or clinical or laboratory criteria to diagnose it as HLH. In molecular diagnosis, the gene mutation should be proved, and in clinical and laboratory criteria, five of the eight criteria should be proved. The four clinical criteria are fever more than 38.5 degree, splenomegaly, cytopenias, at least two of the following, where hemoglobin is less than 9, platelet less than 1 lakh, or absolute neutrophil count less than 1000, with hypertriglyceridemia, where fasting triglycerides are more than 265 and hypofibrinogenemia less than 150. Immune markers, we have to demonstrate a picture of hemophagocytosis in bone marrow, spleen, lymph node, or liver, and low or absent NK activity, ferritin levels more than 500, elevated soluble interleukin alpha. The treatment line of HLH are initial therapy where we will give a high dose of corticosteroid, elimination of the suspected triggers, and aggressive supportive measurement. Second line therapy includes intravenous immunoglobulins, cyclosporin A, and etoposide. So when we give IV corticosteroid, it harbors an anti-inflammatory effect by repressing the activity of immunomodulatory transcriptors. So we start dexamethasone on a dose of 10 mg per meter square daily, and gradually in every week, every 2 weeks, we keep on tapering the dose according to the evaluation of the clinical outcome. Other line of treatment is cyclosporin A and etoposide. Cyclosporin A is a second line agent, which is a calcineurin inhibitor, where we start the dose of 6 milligram per kg daily. Etoposide is we started a dose of 150 mg per meter square IV twice weekly. Continue it for 2 weeks. Another Another line is IVIG intravenous immunoglobulin, anti-thymocyte globulin, and if all these didn't work, we may have to think about hematopoietic cells transplant. Maybe hematopoietic cells transplant is the first line of treatment in case of primary HLH, in diagnosed primary HLH. Biologicals like TNF inhibitors, anakinra, rituximab, and tocilizumab can also be used. This is the HLH 2004 protocol summarized. How are we going to evaluate the response in the patient in therapy of HLH? Settling a fever curve, reducing lymphadenopathy, settling liver function test, and improving splenomegaly, a hyperferritinemia settling is in normal soluble interleukin levels, hypofibrinogenemia settling. All this will help us to understand the patient is responding to our treatment. The take-home message or conclusion of these whole cases are HLH is an aggressive and life-threatening syndrome with high mortality. So it is crucial to have a high degree of suspicion. It should be suspected in unexplained, acutely ill febrile patient, especially with cytopenias and abnormal liver function. So in these patients, we have to send ferritin in dilutions, LDH, triglycerides, in proven cases of HLH, a proper workup for the triggering factor should be done so that we can prevent the next episodes.